There we go. Gotta have the mic on. Haribol, welcome back to our reading in the Madhuraya Kadambini, Cloud Bank of Nectar by Srila Vishvanatha Cakravarti Thakura. We are on the 8th chapter, or the 8th Shower of Nectar. Really esoteric stuff, sorta, kinda. Not super esoteric, but very detailed, gradual revelation of Krishna prema, basically how the devotee is brought into love of Krishna by Krishna's mercy. This whole section is basically about how Krishna personally reveals his different energies and his the way he smells, what he feels like, what he might say, and all these things. He reveals it gradually. So it's a really kind of esoteric section. There's a lot of Sanskrit in there. And I probably... Well, no, not a lot of Sanskrit. That is just the end part. The last part is the evidences. But those evidences are all quoted. So we'll just read the 8th chapter here. It's 10 pages. It's pretty short. And then we'll have read through the Madhuraya Kadambini. So thanks again for tuning in. It's always nice to have devotee association and read. It's especially nice to read to people, because then I feel like it's actually, someone's listening. So here's the eighth shower of nectar. This is subtitle is Fulfillment of the Heart's Desire. It's what you always wanted. Okay. The two unfolding leaves of sadhana on the desire creeper of bhakti were described before. Now, as hearing, chanting, and other devotional processes become very smooth and buttery, suddenly many shiny petals appear at every moment, clinging to the flower of bhava, known as anubhavas, symptoms of ecstasy. Shining brilliantly, the fully blossoming flower of bhava matures and brings forth the fruit of prema. But what is most astonishing about the creeper of bhakti is that though its leaves, buds, flowers, and fruits mature into the succeeding forms, still their original forms remain. Together they shine splendidly in newer and newer ways. Though previously the countless emotions of the devotee were tightly bound by the ropes of attachment to body, family, relatives, home, and wealth, prema now effortlessly sunders those bonds. Then prema, by its own power, takes the same emotions, though material, mayikti, and dips them into a well of divine nectar, whose mere touch completely transforms them into spiritual emotions. Then it firmly binds these spiritualized emotions to the sweetness of the Lord's name, form, and qualities. This is prema, the brilliant rising sun that immediately puts the host of star-like human ideals to shame. So, at this point, all the emotions that we've had before towards so many mundane things, they become possible to be utilized in Krishna's service. But they're not directed towards, obviously, they're directed towards Krishna only at this point. And this is all by the mercy of Krishna. This is this kind of self-manifesting state. Well, self-manifesting in the sense that Krishna manifests it in the devotees. So here it is. The devotee relishes the nectar flowing from the fruit of prema in the form of concentrated bliss. The sublime nourishing potency of this nectar is its power to attract even Krishna. Needless to say, when the devotee begins to taste this nectar, he takes no heed of any obstacles. As a great demoniac warrior, engrossed in battle, or a thief feverish for priceless treasure loses all sense of discretion, in the same way the devotee loses all sense of self. If one could imagine a hunger impossible to satisfy even by eating an unlimited amount of the most tasty food constantly, day and night, like this arises a longing for the Lord. Like this arises a longing for the Lord. This anxiety burns the devotee like the blazing sun, and the same time relieves him by causing a glimpse in the heart of the unlimited form, qualities, and sweetness of the Lord, which the devotee relishes like the soothing coolness of millions of moons. This very astonishing prema simultaneously gives acute anxiety and relief from this anxiety. First arising in its reservoir in the heart, and slightly increasing, prema pierces the devotee like a shaft, with ardent longing to see the Lord at every moment. Then the searing heat of the fire of this anxiety burns the shaft to ashes, relieving the devotee's pain by causing a spurti of the Lord in his heart. Spurti is a glimpse of the Lord, a glimpse of the unlimited form of the Lord and his sweetness in the heart. So relishing the Madhurya, the sweetness of the Lord's form and pastimes, still he remains unsatiated, and his longing for the Lord again increases. In this state he considers friends as useless as a dry, overgrown well, and his household becomes like a thorn-filled forest. Food seems totally distasteful. Praise from others is like the biting of a snake. Daily duties seem as painful as death, and all the limbs of his body seem like an unmanageable burden. The consolation of his comrades is like poison. Though he remains constantly awake, wakefulness is like a sea of repentance. And if sleep comes, it seems full of mortal anguish. His body seems the target of chastisement for the Lord, and breathing in and out seems as fruitless as sowing roasted grains. What more can be said? What were always his favorite things before are now abandoned as great calamities. Even thinking of the Lord seems to tear his body asunder. Then one day in this state, the magnet of prema attracts black iron like Krishna, making him appear before the eyes of the devotee. The Lord then floods his devotee's senses with the unrivaled auspicious qualities springing from his own eternal being: beauty, fragrance, pleasant voice, tenderness, tastiness, generosity, and compassion. The uncommon sweetness and ever freshness of these qualities create an acute, ever-increasing longing in the heart, as the devotee lovingly relishes them. To describe the vast ocean of transcendental bliss appearing at this time, the words of the poet are no better than a tiny lota. Water pot. Small water pot. Some meager examples can be given. A traveler on a desert path, scorched by the hot rays of the summer sun, somehow finds shelter under the cool shade of a vast banyan tree, densely tangled with branches and surrounded with hundreds of vessels of ice-cold Ganga water. An elephant caught in a forest fire for a long time is finally bathed by unlimited streams of water from a thick bank of rain clouds. A person plagued by hundreds of mortal diseases and burning with thirst by chance drinks exquisitely sweet nectar. The incredible happiness that each of these three feels gives only a tiny glimpse of the unbounded bliss felt by the devotee in prema. The Lord first reveals his beauty, Saundarya, to the eyes of the utterly astonished devotee. The sweetness of his beauty makes all the senses and the mind become like eyes to see the Lord. The resulting symptoms of ecstatic love, such as tears, shivering, and being stunned, cause the devotee to swoon in ecstasy. To revive him, the Lord next reveals his fragrance, Sarabhya, to the nostrils of his devotee, and all the devotee's senses and mind take on the quality of the nose to smell. As the devotee starts to swoon a second time, the Lord says, quote, "O my devotee, I am fully under your control. Please don't be disturbed. Just realize me to your full satisfaction." Unquote. The Lord thus discloses his pleasing voice, Sausvarya, to the ear of his devotee, and as before all the senses become like ears to hear. As his devotee swoons a third time, the Lord mercifully gives him the touch of his lotus feet, hands, or breast, revealing his delicate softness, Saukyaumarya, according to the different rasas of the devotees. To those in the mood of servitude, dasya, he touches his lotus feet to their heads. To those in the mood of friendship, sakya, he grasps their hands with his. For those in the mood of parental affection, vatsalya, he gives the touch of his hands by wiping away their tears. For those in conjugal mood, prayasi, he awards his tender softness by embracing them to his heart with his long arms. Again, the devotee's senses all take on the sense of touch to feel his softness. At the start of the fourth swoon, the Lord restores him by giving his fifth Madhurya, his fifth sweetness, the taste of the nectar of his lips, sarasya. But this he reveals only to those who at this time are in the mood of conjugal love and desire this, but not to others. The devotee's senses all take on the sense of taste, and he faints for a fifth time. This blissful swoon is so deep, the Lord can revive him only by bestowing his sixth quality, Audarya, generosity. Audarya refers to the state where all the Lord's qualities, beauty, fragrance, sound, touch, and taste, forcefully manifest at once to his devotee's various senses. Then prema, understanding the mind of the Lord, increases to the utmost, and with it the keen hankering of the devotee. Prema becomes like a powerful moon in the heart of the devotee, presiding over the ocean of bliss and creating hundreds of waves. It causes an almost destructive friction in the devotee's heart among the competing tastes. At the same time as the presiding deity in the mind, the moon of prema expands its power and allows the devotee to relish all the different tastes at the same time without conflict. One should not think that, due to lack of single-mindedness, the devotee will be unable to relish the fullness of all the various tastes. Rather, the senses, attaining the extraordinary, inconceivable, wonderfully amazing capacity to do the functions of all the other senses, even more fully savor the Madhurya of the Lord's beauty, pleasing voice, and other qualities. Mundane logic is useless in these inconceivable matters. Quote, "Don't try to understand those matters that are inconceivable, achintya, with mundane logic, as being beyond material nature is the meaning of achintya." Seeing the devotees yearning to relish the Saundarya and other sweet qualities of the Lord all at once, but helpless like a chataka bird trying to catch every drop of rain at once in his beak, the Lord considers, quote, "Oh, why am I keeping so many wonderful qualities to myself?" Unquote. To let the devotee partake of them all, the Lord manifests his seventh Madhurya, Karunya, compassion, the superintendent of all the Lord's Shaktis. She reigns as a supreme empress in the middle of a lotus on whose 8 surrounding petals are the 8 Shaktis mentioned in the Agama Shastras: Vimala, Utkarshini, Jnana, Kriya, Yoga, Bravi, Satya, and Ishani. This Karunya, also known as Anuraga, kindness or favor, manifests itself in the lotus eyes of the Lord. To his devotees in the mood of servant it is known as Kripa Shakti, to his other devotees as Vatsalya, or sometimes Karunya. When it appears in relation to the devotees in conjugal mood, it is known as Chitta Vidravini, Akarshini Shakti, that melts the heart of Krishna and attracts him. Thus it is known by many names according to the different moods of the devotee. By this Kripa Shakti, the Lord's all-pervading free will, Ichcha Shakti, influences the heart and causes great astonishment even in those realized souls who are fully self-satisfied, Atmarama. This Kripa Shakti invites one quality called Bhakta Vatsalya, affection for his devotees, to rule as emperor over all the Lord's auspicious spiritual qualities that are described by the deity of the earth in the first canto of Srimad-Bhagavatam. So, quote, truthfulness, cleanliness, pity, forbearance, renunciation, satisfaction, straightforwardness, peacefulness, sense control, austerity, equality, patience, self-restraint, learned in the Vedas, knowledge, indifference to sense enjoyment, leadership, chivalry, influence, strength, memory, independence, dexterity, beauty, fortitude, kindness, ingenuity, gentility, morality, endurance, enthusiasm, power, fortitude, gravity, steadiness, fidelity, fame, honor, pridelessness, all these 39 and many other transcendental qualities worthy to be possessed by exalted personalities are ever present in the Lord without deterioration. Srimad-Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 16, Text 26 through 29. The Shastra names 18 principal faults that are never present in the Lord: illusion, laziness, error, cruelty, intense lust, fickleness, arrogance, envy, violence, sorrow, fatigue, dishonesty, anger, longing, fear, confusion, partiality, and dependency on others, even though they are altogether absent in the Lord by the request of Bhakta-vatsalya. These qualities are present at times in various avatars, such as Rama and Krishna. By the influence of Bhakta-vatsalya, these faults are now appreciated by the devotees as exalted qualities. To completely relish the beauty and other qualities revealed by the Lord, the enlivened devotee savors them over and over again. Most astonishingly, their sweetness increases more and more, and the devotee ascends to higher and higher peaks of experience. Then, continually realizing the unheard-of sweetness of the Lord's Bhakta-vatsalya, his heart begins to melt. The Lord, showing his kind nature, says, quote, O my best devotee, many births you have given up, wife, house, and wealth to attain me. For the sake of my service you endured untold miseries, such as cold, wind, hunger, thirst, and pain. Maintaining your life by begging, you tolerated countless insults and abuses from other men. In return for all your sacrifice, I am unable to give you anything. I have simply become your debtor. Rulership over the whole earth, lordship over the heavens, and mystic powers are unsuitable for you. How can I give them to you? No, no. Grass and straw, the delight of cows, I cannot give to a man. Though I'm unconquerable, today I've certainly been conquered by you. Now I'm taking shelter of the creeper of your excellent character and gentle conduct." Unquote. Receiving the sweet loving words of the Lord as ornaments on his ears, the devotee says, quote, "O my Lord, my Master, ocean of mercy, your glance upon me while I was being bitten by swarms of crocodiles, the endless miseries amidst the terrifying current of birth and death. Thus mercy rose as the sun and melted your butter-like heart. O Lord, transcendental to all the worlds, in the form of the spiritual master you destroyed ignorance and lust. The Sudarshana chakra of your darshan cut apart those crocodiles and freed me from the clutches of their terrible teeth. To fulfill my desire to serve your lotus feet as a maidservant, Dasi, you placed the syllables of your mantra in my ears. Destroying my suffering, you purified me by constant hearing, chanting, and remembering your name and glories. Through the association of your own dear devotees, you made me understand how to render service to yourself. Still, being ignorant, the lowest of the low, I've never served you even one day, my Prabhu. Though such a miserly, selfish person deserves to be punished, instead you made me drink the sweet nectar of your darshan. O great Master, you make me feel shamed by saying from your lotus mouth that you have become my debtor. Now what do I do? My offenses number 5, 7, or maybe 800,000 millions. I can definitely say they must be more than trillions. Would I be arrogant to ask you to pardon them all? Just let all the reactions of my past sins remain. Intense and long-standing, suffered and yet to be suffered. Just one day before I was rudely comparing your dark limbs to the fresh monsoon cloud, the blue lotus, and the sapphire, your beautiful face to the moon, and the tenderness of your feet to newly sprouted leaves. Now seeing your real beauty, I realized that by my poor intelligence I was clearly offending you. I was trying to compare half a useless mustard seed to the golden Mount Meru, a chickpea to a touchstone, a jackal to a lion, or a mosquito to Garuda. Thinking them, I'm praising the Lord. With my inept poetry became famous among common people, but now that for one moment I behold the splendorous beauty of your Sri Murti before my very eyes, I am ashamed. My words of comparison are like the teeth of a restless cow, trying to defile the desire creeper of your beauty, but they are always unable to do so. So there's a footnote here. This example seems odd, but here there is a play on words in Sanskrit. The word go means cow as well as words. In this way, the devotee praises the Lord in many ways, and the Lord becomes extremely pleased with the devotee. Then, especially for the devotee in a conjugal relationship, the Lord reveals, as far as possible, his entire Vrindavan Dham, along with his loving pastimes, according to the devotee's desire. The Lord shows him Sri Vrindavana, the desire tree, the Mahayoga Pitta, the chief of all his beloveds, Vishubhanu Nandini Sri Radha, along with her Sakhis, such as Lalita and her Manjaris, her own friends, such as Subala, the cows herded by him, the Yamuna River, Govardhana, Nandishvara Hill, and forests such as Bandira. He then reveals Nanda, Yashoda, and all brothers, friends, servants, and Brajavasis there. Revealing all these, imbued with excellent rasa, the Lord plunges his devotee in an enchanting tidal wave of bliss, and then suddenly disappears with his entire entourage. Oof. Then regaining consciousness after some moments, the devotee, anxious to see the Lord again, opens his eyes, but not seeing the Lord, he begins to cry. Quote, "Was I merely dreaming? No, I wasn't dreaming, as I have no drowsiness nor any heaviness in my eyes from sleep. Was it some hallucination? No, for an hallucination, a hallucination could never give such bliss. Was it from some defect in the mind? No, the symptoms of a distracted mind are absent. Was it the fulfillment of some cherished desire? No, material fancy could never even approach what I have seen. Was it a fleeting glimpse of the Lord in the heart, spurti? No, because all the past visions of the Lord that I remember were never so vivid. Unquote. In this way, plagued by various doubts, the devotee falls on the dusty earth, praying to again have darshan of the Lord. Hankering over and over for darshan, but not obtaining it, he laments, weeps, rolls on the ground, wounds his own body, faints, recovers, stands, sits, runs about, and wails like a madman. Sometimes he sits silently like a sage, and sometimes, like a social misfit, he fails to do his daily duties. At other times he talks incoherently, like a person possessed by spirits. Then, if a devotee friend comes to console him, and asks privately what is the matter, he explains to his friend that he has what he has experienced. The friend exclaims, "Oh, my friend, what good fortune! You had a direct meeting with the Lord." Unquote. Satisfied with this explanation, he recovers for a moment and becomes happy. Then the next moment he again laments, quote, "Oh, why can't I again have the Lord's darshan? Was it just a shower of causeless mercy from some crown jewel of Mahabhagavats upon this worthless soul? Or was it the fruit of some so-called service done by a worthless soul like me, which according to the logic of the termite letters resembled real devotional service?" So here's a footnote on the termite letters. The logic of the termite letters, or Gunakshara-nyaya, refers to the marks termites make in wood having the unexpected or chance resemblance to actual letters. So, or perhaps the Lord, who is compassion personified, bestowed his causeless mercy on such a wretched ocean of faults as myself. So, in other words, he's saying, I've done devotional service, but it was so kind of like messy and all over the place. At one point, maybe I did like get it right, and it resembled actual devotional service, and now maybe that was why I got the Lord's darshan like that. So he continues, "Oh, what to do? By some indescribable fortune, the Lord came into my very hands, but then due to some grave offense, he slipped away again. I'm helpless, my mind is reeling, I can't understand. Where shall I go? What should I do, and how? Whom to ask? The three worlds appear totally empty and hold nothing for me. Without shelter, I feel like I'm being devoured by a scorching forest fire. Giving up worldly association, I'll stay alone for some time to think." Unquote. Doing this, he laments further, quote, "O lotus-faced Lord, overflowing with streams of sweet nectar, your beautiful form is bedecked with a garland of fragrant forest flowers, scenting all the forests and intoxicating the bees who hum about. Just for one moment may I see your lordship again? Having once tasted your Madhurya, I aspire for nothing else." Unquote. He begins to roll on the ground, breathe heavily, faint, and lose his mind. Suddenly, seeing the Lord everywhere, he rejoices, embraces, laughs, dances, and sings. When the Lord again disappears, filled with remorse, he weeps. He spends the rest of his life behaving in this strange way. and no longer knows whether he has a body or not. He is unaware when in due time his material body passes to the elements. He understands only that his worshipable Lord, the ocean of mercy, is directly manifesting, leading him to his own abode to engage him in personal service. Thus the devotee reaches the final goal of life. Haribol. I'll read this last part here. So then he quotes, "The progression in the development of bhakti and the sadhaka up to the appearance of prema is as follows. Starting with faith, sraddha, followed by association of devotees, Sadhu-sanga, doing devotional practices, bhajana kriya, cessation of unwanted habits, anartha-nivritti, steadiness, nishtha, taste, ruchi, attachment, asakti, bhava, the stage prior to love of Godhead, and then finally prema arises, pure love of Godhead." Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Thus this Madhuraya Kadambini describes in detail the stages of devotion mentioned in this verse. Beyond these, the increasingly excellent stages of sneha, mana, pranaya, raga, anuraga, and Mahabhava are the fruits on the uppermost branches of the creeper of bhakti. The devotee's present body is unable to tolerate the overwhelming friction of the richness of these tastes, the searing heat of separation, or the coolness of millions of moons in reunion. As these tastes do not appear in his body, they have not been described here. Okay, so then here's a footnote. They actually describe them. Sounds like the book pretty much ends there, but they, being merciful to us who want to know, give this. Although Srila Vishvanatha Cakravarti does not describe sneha, mana, pranaya, raga, anuraga, and Mahabhava, the following descriptions are found in Srila Rupa Goswami's Sri Ujjvala Nilamani. So sneha, when Krishna Rati achieves excellence and one's heart melts on beholding Sri Krishna, this is called sneha. When sneha arises, one is unable to remain a moment without the Lord's association. Mana. As sneha increases even further, when the lover feels newer and newer sweetness in loving exchanges but wishes to hide her feelings by crooked means, mana is experienced. By nature, dealings between lovers never proceeds straight, but in a crooked manner. So one strange feature of prema is that this crookedness or anger is very pleasing to Lord Krishna. Pranaya. When mamata, or that consciousness that Krishna is mine, reaches its excellence in mana, to the point where one's very life, body, mind, intelligence, and all practically become one with Lord Krishna's life, body, mind, and all. This is called pranaya. Raga. The culmination of pranaya is raga. In this state, even if one is suffering great distress, if there is a chance of meeting with Sri Krishna, one feels intense pleasure. But if there is no chance to meet him, even if one is in very pleasurable circumstances, one feels great distress. Anuraga. When raga reaches the highest stage, the devotee's love for the Lord becomes so ecstatic that even after enjoying the company of the beloved, the devotee feels that his enjoyment is insufficient. In such a state, one sees Sri Krishna as newer and fresher at every moment. Such a development of ecstasy is called anuraga. And then bhava. The ultimate stage of anuraga is known as bhava, where one doesn't care a fig for the anguish of giving up one's loved ones, honor, worse than death for a chaste woman, or even life itself to go meet Sri Krishna. Indeed, one feels no trouble in giving these things up, but rather supreme pleasure. And then Mahabhava. The top state of bhava is called Mahabhava. It is of two types, Modan and Madan. In these states, unlimited bliss to the point of madness is experienced in meeting and enjoying with Sri Krishna. These two states are never manifest in anyone save and except in Sri Radhika, the crown jewel of Sri Krishna's beloveds. Indeed, in the pastimes it is never even manifest in Sri Krishna himself. In separation from Sri Krishna, this Modan Mahabhava becomes known as Mohan. Being in the throes of separation, all the sattvika bhavas are blazing, sudipta. This also is practically manifest only in Srimati Radhika. Jai. Ecstatic stuff. Now, I challenge anyone to find any scripture, that's not Vaishnava scripture, that gives that type of description of what it's like to meet God, what it's like to meet God face to face. I guarantee it, you won't find it anywhere. You won't find it anywhere. Won't find it anywhere. So how long have we been going for? 40 minutes, okay. There is just a couple more pages left. These are all the proofs for all these things. So I'll just read it and we'll get through it. Evidence regarding stages of bhakti. Since ruchi, asakti, bhava, and prema can be perceived, their direct experience has been described here in Madhuraya Kadambini. In these matters there is a wealth of scriptural evidences, but they were not cited as it would have been a disturbance at the time of describing the experience of these tastes. But for those who desire them, they are now given. Ruchi, O great sage, as soon as I got a taste of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, my attention to hear of the Lord was unflinching, and as my taste developed, I could realize that it was only in my ignorance that I had accepted gross and subtle coverings, for both the Lord and I are transcendental. Bhagavatam 1.5.27. Asakti. The stage in which the consciousness of the living entity is attracted by the three modes of material nature is called conditional life. But when this same consciousness is attached to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one is situated in the consciousness of liberation. Bhagavatam 3.25.15. Bhava. O Vyasadeva, in that association, by the mercy of those great Vedantists, I could hear them describe the attractive activities of Lord Krishna, and thus listening attentively, my taste for hearing of the personality of Godhead increased at every step. Bhagavatam 1.5.26. Prema. O Vyasadeva, at that time, being exceedingly overpowered by feelings of happiness, every part of my body became separately enlivened. Being absorbed in an ocean of ecstasy, I could not see both myself and the Lord. Bhagavatam 1.6.17. Interesting how he quotes the realization of Narada Muni in the first canto for those descriptions of these elevated things. So, symptoms of ruchi. O king, there is a river of nectar constantly flowing from the mouths of the devotees, describing the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Madhusundana. In that place, if one drinks that nectar with attentive ears without being satisfied, he is untouched by fear, lamentation, and illusion. Bhagavatam 4.29.40. Symptoms of asakti. Giving up all material attachments, one should wander freely in this world, hearing and chanting without hesitation the all-auspicious birth, pastimes, and names of the Lord, the bearer of the chariot wheel. Bhagavatam 11.2.39. Symptoms of bhava. O Brahmanas, as iron attracted by a magnetic stone moves automatically towards the magnet, my consciousness, having been changed by his will, is attracted by Lord Vishnu, who carries a disc in his hand. Thus I have no independence. Bhagavatam 7.5.14. Symptoms of prema. Vowing to chant the holy name of his beloved Lord, the devotee comes to the stage of love of Godhead. As his heart melts with ecstatic love, he loudly laughs, cries, becomes agitated, and sings and dances like a madman, not caring for outsiders. Bhagavatam 11.2.40. Spurti, or momentary vision of the Lord. The Supreme Lord Sri Krishna, whose glories and activities are pleasing to hear, at once appears on the seat of my heart, as if called for, as soon as I begin to chant his holy activities. Srimad-Bhagavatam 1.6.33. Another Narada Muni quote. Sakshat Darshan, direct association of the Lord. Quote, O my mother, my devotees always see the smiling face of my form, with eyes like the rising morning sun. They like to see my various transcendental forms, which are all benevolent, and they also talk favorably with me. Srimad-Bhagavatam 3.25-35. Next, devotees' reaction to association with the Lord. Upon seeing the charming forms of the Lord, smiling and attractive, and hearing his very pleasing words, the pure devotee almost loses all other consciousness. His senses are free from all other engagements, and he becomes absorbed in devotional service. Thus, in spite of his unwillingness, he attains liberation without separate endeavors. Srimad-Bhagavatam 3.25-26. Activities in that state. As a drunken man is unaware if he has clothes on his body or not, so too, one who is perfect in self-realization and has achieved his eternal identity is unaware if his temporary body is sitting or standing. Indeed, he has no idea if by God's will his body is finished, or if God's will he obtains a new body. Srimad-Bhagavatam 11.13-36. One should consider these verses from Srimad-Bhagavatam. So, one more time, the last section here. Sequence in the appearance of prema. The essence of this book is as follows. Ahankara has two functions. Ahanta, consciousness of I, and mamata, consciousness of mine. By jnana, knowledge, these two are destroyed and liberation is attained. Bondage results from directing these two towards body, house, and such. I am this body, this is my house. So, I am the follower of the Lord. I am the servant of the Lord. My Lord, a great ocean of beauty, virtue, and Madhurya, along with his associates, is to be served by me. That is the right consciousness. That's not ahankara. Identifying oneself in this way, as the Lord's servant, ahanta, and making the Lord and his associates the object of one's affection, or mamata, is called prema. This prema is far beyond both bondage and liberation, and is declared the crown jewel of all human goals. Purushartha Chudamani. The sequence in the development of prema is as follows. When the materialistic aspect of ahanta and mamata is extremely thick, one thinks, quote, I shall remain in worldly affairs, but I'll become a Vaishnava and serve the Lord. Unquote. When by good fortune this tiny particle of faith is born, a slight trace, gandha, of the spiritual aspect arises, and the jiva becomes fit for devotional service. At the stage of Sadhu-sanga, the spiritual trace becomes a little more condensed, while the material aspect is still absolute. Then, at the stage of anishtita bhajana kriya, the spiritualization of I and mine is partial, ekadesha vyapini, while the material aspect is full, purna. At the stage of nishta, spiritual realizations becomes more pervasive, and the materialistic influence is almost full. When ruchi arises, the spiritualization of I and mine is nearly complete, while the materialistic idea of I and mine is still pervasive. At the stage of asakti, the spiritual aspect of ahanta or mamata is complete, purna, and the material aspect becomes partial, ekadesha vyapini. At the stage of bhava, the spiritual aspect becomes absolute, and the material aspect is reduced to an empty shadow, like the nyaya of walking from a dream. So this refers to when one just awakens from a dream, he still almost feels that the dream for a moment. He still almost sees that dream for a moment before his drowsy eyes. So the material consciousness in life becomes like that as one is waking up. At the stage of prema, the spiritual aspect becomes extremely thick, and the material aspect is completely absent. In a similar manner, at the beginning of bhajana kriya, meditation on the Lord is momentary and mixed with mundane topics. During Nishta meditation, there is only a trace of other topics. At the stage of Ruchi, there is no distraction, and the meditation is long-lasting. At the stage of Asakti, meditation becomes very deep. At the stage of Bhava, as soon as one begins meditation, he sees the Lord in his heart, Spurti. At the stage of Prema, there is not only Spurti, but direct association with the Lord. Quote, "May that sweet bank of clouds satisfy this thirsty world by distributing the rasa lifted from the ocean of sweetness, Sri Krishna Chaitanya." Thus ends the 8th shower of nectar of Madhuraya Kadambini by I can never say this, Mahabhava Padaya Srimad Vishvanatha Cakravarti, entitled Fulfillment of the Heart's Desires, or Desire. Hari Bol. Wow, so much detailed knowledge. I love this book. This book really, for me, highlights how knowing what the goal is, knowing what do we have to look forward to in executing devotional service, and how every step, every time you get closer, and the more advancement you make in devotional service, the more the happiness is there, and it always can expand, and it's never limited to anything. And that simply by engaging in devotional service, our supreme benefit is achieved. But what I was saying is that the by knowing what the goal is specifically, prema, and what goes on there, and how it's so amazing, how Krishna is so mind-blowingly amazing and endlessly, that is very inspiring to me. And but I think that also highlights how that's important to know, because if you have an idea of what the goal of life is, when you achieve that, then if it's not the highest thing, then you'll just stop. You go, oh well, I've achieved the goal of life, and you'll be falsely proud. You'll have some kind of false understanding, and you're just kind of cheating yourself. So I've never ever heard anyone ever talk about coming in contact with God in such a vivid, descriptive way, and so clear, and so sequential and scientific, and it's just amazing. It's absolutely amazing. So having taken up devotional service on any little level, as it describes here, even if our material consciousness is still really thick, if we're still really dense, even that little bit will kind of propel us towards these higher things, and we can pick that up sooner or later. And those were, those of us who were here on Sunday heard the lecture that I gave, and we talked about renouncing, the material world, and this is the compelling argument on the positive side. I tried to give the compelling argument on the negative side about how, being animalistic and all that, and how it leads to more distress, where spirituality actually should lead to more blissfulness. However, even though distress was described in here, being separate from Krishna, that is a very relishable state, because remember, he described prema as simultaneously causing anxiety and relieving that anxiety. So it's an indescribable state of consciousness that is obviously very relishable and very desirable for anyone who achieves that consciousness. Simply wishes to always be with Krishna endlessly. And in the higher stages, one is with Krishna or his devotees, on and on and on and off, and on and off and on and off, endlessly. And then this way you can understand how eternity can be spent. Even now it seems very daunting due to my own mundane consciousness, but we can't imagine what it's like. We can't imagine what it's like. We have no capacity to understand. As we make spiritual advancement, our qualification to be spiritually advanced will manifest. Now we don't have those qualifications, so we can't imagine being like anywhere close to being steady. But because it's achintya, it's inconceivable. That is just Maya telling us that we can't do it. But the reality is that we are eminently qualified because we are spirit souls. That's our natural position, is to be saintly people. Our natural position is to be saints. And so we just simply have to proceed with faith that the process will make us qualified, that Krishna's association, by following the instructions of the spiritual master, will automatically gain qualification due to their mercy, due to their instructions. And this is really how it all works out. Even though we can't imagine what it is, Krishna will endow us with the qualification to be spiritually advanced, and that one simply must have faith if they're going to progress in this way. Because, like it said here, it's pointless to use mundane logic. Only you simply have to quote the scripture and then proceed with your spiritual practice. So, thank you very much. We'd like to hear people's comments, or rather people's inspirations from what they read. If people have stuff to say, if they want to say it, I will now come over here and I will post this this live chat room, voice chat that we are doing. I'm going to put it in the Facebook, and I'll put it in the YouTube, and I hope people have stuff to say. And I'm going to go over there right now. I'm going to stop talking, because if people have something to say, we can just get to it. So thank you very much. Haribo.